folks, it's great to see you again and welcome back to the channel, and this is going to be one of those reviews. I would like to say that I'm excited to take a look at this guy, but I'm really not, to be honest with you. He looks so cool and he is so challenging in a whole lot of ways. Stick around, we're going to take a little step back in time here and have a look at the Transformers Prime Beast Hunters Deluxe class Wheeljack in the latest GotBot True Review. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, share. Check out Machinery of Man, the Everything Factor. Have a look at Universal Collision. During Season 1, we have episodes going up every 2 weeks. And now we're going to get it right into this guy. Where do I begin? Where do I even begin? Okay, so we'll talk about his paint apps first. He has that marbling texture, especially you can see it down here on the legs, that the Beast Hunters line had. Made them all very unique. He has gold accents on his arms for those extra talons. His ear wings, I don't know what you call them, are gold on this one instead of like a silver or a gray. But he does have more green and white and red, which is very Wheeljack-esque. Not for Transformers Prime, because he didn't really have that much green on him, if any, as I recall. So, as a version of Wheeljack, I feel like his paint apps, you know, he's kind of a henched up version, admittedly, but I feel like his paint apps are a good 8.5. As a version of the Transformers Prime Wheeljack, they're probably a 7. Maybe a 7, and that's being kind of generous. I do like the look of him. I'll say that. I do like the look. And I can dig the gold coloring over the silver just to make it more interesting and stand out, but it's not accurate. Now we get into articulation. In vehicle mode, he rolls pretty good. No real problems. He's sort of low profile to the ground, so you might get caught up here and there, but generally he rolls quite well and he looks real sleek. In robot mode, oh boy. Well, the head can go left and right and up and down. Actually can go way down, which is sort of cool. The shoulders, they go not all the way around because they get caught up on a bunch of this back junk. So I think that's sort of unfortunate. You can decide to leave the shoulder pieces up like this, or you can push them back. It's really your call. It does not, well, I guess it makes a little bit of a difference to articulation. If you leave it back, you get a 90 degree at the elbow. If you leave it forward, you still get a 90 degree at the elbow. So it's really up to you aesthetics wise. I personally like to have them back. I just think it looks more like an arm, and his shoulder pauldron pieces aren't quite as high. There is no bicep swivel. Huge strike against them. The wrists are on ball joints. One of these ball joints is extremely loose and likes to pop off. This one here, as you can see. I have tried fixing it with the floor polish fix a couple of times. It works okay, but you can see that it still likes to come off. That's unfortunate, and it didn't always do that. It does that, honestly, because the transformation is a bit of a beast for this guy, and the first time it came off was during the transformation. That being said, this actually belongs to the Scraplets. This is not my version. I did have him for a while as my version. The Scraplets sort of inherited him. And I'll get to that in a few minutes. He has no waist. Legs can go well forward and can go back a bit because, again, they hit on that junk. Little under 90 degrees at the knee. He does have ankle tilt, which is beautiful. He does have a thigh swivel, which is beautiful. And the arms can also go only out about that far, really, before it starts hitting into junk. If you bring the shoulder thing forward, you're still not really getting out any further. So his arms have some articulation limits that I don't like, that really personally kind of bug me. He stands all right, even though his feet are a bit small, to be fair. I'm going to give his articulation, I'm going to give it about a 7. It's okay. It's all right. Maybe even the 7.5. For me personally, my version of Wheeljack is this guy. It is the, the Generations Wheeljack. And why doesn't, because I don't have his heels down. It is the Generations Wheeljack. I looked at him in full way back in episode 101. I love this guy. I really feel like it is the standard bearer in, the chug line for a Wheeljack, even though some might argue that the Combiner Wars version is better, or at least the Unite Warriors version is better, because that had pretty great paint apps. And I can see the argument for it, but I still feel like this guy is the go-to. And I love him. I really do. I did love this guy, and admittedly, I got him for $5 way back when. His accessory. Oh, I should say this too. These wing pieces here, I know how they're supposed to sort of like lock in place, but they don't really do it very well on mine. So they're always kind of moving about. I do find that using the peg hole back here and attaching his accessory, which is this thing, does help the stability. So I'm just going to lay him aside for a second. Now this thing has what looks like a donut that goes in here. We open out the handle, so it's straight out like a spare type of thing. There's like a donut thing that goes in here. Now I don't have that here, but it fits in kind of between these gold notches, and you push this backward and forward, and you can see the mechanism under right here working, and that will push it out and it can open up. I don't have that because the scraplets lost it, I guess. But either way, this is the basic weapon, and it is an absolute beast to put in his hands. You put it in here, you put it in here. It's challenging for him to dual wield it. It's challenging for him. I mean, he can do it if you go like this and like this. He can sort of dual wield it in this fashion. I don't have it put in his hands, but you get the idea. And I don't have it put in his hands because I'm not going to. It's that brutal to get in his hands. I don't like this accessory. I don't like this weapon at all. I think it's a complete waste of time and plastic and energy. They could have given him the swords that the kind of original use of this mold, or the mold skeleton, had, and I think that would have been way better than that hunk of junk. So we have a going score for this guy of about a 7.5 when we consider his paint apps and when we consider his posability, playability. He's a pretty good figure, but he's certainly not perfect. He has room for improvement. And now we get into what I probably despise the most with this guy, and that is his transformation. Really not a fan at all. So I'll explain why as we go through. Let's do the easy things first. We straighten out his arm, and you see you get the entire side of the car here by just straightening out his arm. You do the same over here. Straighten both of those out for now, and you can really just sort of leave them, to be honest with you. Then we come down to the bottom. Now this is kind of interesting, and I'll admit, guys, it's been a while since I've done this guy. You take the feet and you can put them down, and when you do that, you can take his shins and fold them to the inside of the leg. So this is how he looks now. Turn his shins around, so now you have kind of the roof of the car coming together. Fold this whole piece around and this whole piece around, so now his feet are kind of up on his thighs, I guess we'll say. And see if I can explain this. Pull down this whole kind of shin piece, and you'll see that you expose some green leg in there, right? I have it done on one side, not done on the other. When you do that, there's a little tab here on the white, and that goes up into a little notch right here by my finger and snaps in. You have to put some force on it. There's a lot of kind of sharp little pieces down there, so I don't particularly dig that. Bring this one down and snap it up. And there's now that you have that done, there's a peg in here on the leg, right, I don't even know if I can show this. A peg in right here on the leg, and that'll go into a slot on the other side, and you know, there's your hood done. And I think it's kind of a cool looking hood, even though you still have the two spaces down here where the swords could go, even though that wasn't the best weapon storage either. Now, was it? So that's pretty, I think that's pretty great. No problem so far. Then we come up to his abdomen section, and you open out his abs, and when you do that, you kind of pull down this white section. You open up his abs and you pull down this white section, that'll pull his head back. And now your trick, I suppose if you want to call it that, will be to get this white section tabbed in over right here. And this whole back section will come together and go in right here, and then the arms go in the side. But here's the challenging part. Here's what you need to know with this guy, and bring this up. Under here you have a mechanism for doing his arms. And see if I can bring those legs out of the way so I can bring this in closer to show you. You have a green mechanism underneath. No problem. And inside the green mechanism there's a little black armature. Again, no, you would think no problem. You have to have these positioned perfectly for robot mode, because there's a little hole here and a little hole here, and that's what, you know, this whole chest piece tabs into. So they do have to be in this position for robot mode, but they need to be in a much different position for his vehicle mode. And these hands need to be in a very specific position for his vehicle mode. And that's where the transformation for this guy really begins to fall apart. Right to pieces. Bring the whole hip section is on this black piece. So bring that whole thing forward. When you do that, you can tab this in. You can also take these sections and put them down into the roof. And this is what we have now kind of underneath. And we take these arms and we turn them around, because naturally they're going to have to go to the front of the vehicle. No real big shock there. You bring the green armature up, just like this. This one's still down, this one is now brought up. And you need to hold that there while you bring the black piece that rotates up here down. Bring the whole green piece up, hold it in place, and sort of rotate down the black armature. Now, again, you would figure, okay, this isn't so bad. This isn't so bad. You take the forearms and you pull them out and you turn them around and you tab them back in. You take the forearm, you pull it out, rotate it, and tab it back in. And the idea is that, quite simply, you're going to bring these two pieces together over the front of all of this to give you a windshield. In order for that to fit and happen, you need to make sure that you have the wrists and the fists in the exact right place, because they need to sort of fit in right here where I'm poking my finger in. They need to sort of fit in right there, and if they don't, you're not going to tab this together. So we're going to try this and hope for the best. And you'll see, wow, what a pain of a transformation this is. And honestly, there's no real nice way to do this. Like you really just sort of got to put this wrist in. That wrist just popped off again. Like, not a fan, not a fan. Have to put, see, you see that I popped this wrist right off of the joint. Maybe it's best for me to do it that way. And I already have it turned. But again, like, you shouldn't have to do that. Like, to me, that's an incredible flaw. A lot of... does not want to go in. Hold on, folks. There. Now I have it back in. The wrist is... honestly, it's largely destroyed. It really is largely destroyed on this guy. And to me, that's a shame. There's no real longevity with the toy, and to me that completely ruins the fun factor of it. And now the whole ab section came untabbed again. We bring this across, we bring this across, we hope and we pray. We squeeze all of this up. We try to get that positioned correctly and this positioned correctly. Here's the other thing. You got to make sure that the window and the door kind of come in over the little green section right like here so that it can fit properly. You start squeezing all of this together. You hope for the best. I got one arm here that's down because here's the other problem. This green piece likes to move. And that can throw everything off. Bring that down. What an absolute... what a horrible transformation. Finally, I'm getting stuff squeezed together here. Little by little. These pieces up here popped out of the, let's say, the core of the body. They're back down. That's like that. And in we go, and boom, there you go. Wheeljack finally done. The problem is the arm transformation is so not fun that it totally detracts from the rest of it. The rest of it is sort of smooth but precise, and when you get to those arms and the exact positioning of those hands and whatnot, if it's not perfect, it's going to pop everything apart and everything's going to come off and you're not going to have fun. There's a 5mm port up here. This was on his back. 5mm peg there, so you can store this here, or you can turn it around and have it this way if you want. That's great weapon storage. Transformation 2, maybe 2. So this guy went from a 7.5. His transformation's a 2. This guy might be a 4. It's not a great Wheeljack. It's really not. Some people love the figure. Some people love the original version of this figure. And hey, if you don't struggle with those wrists, if you haven't had yours get chewed up like mine has, or well, like the scraplets have, and if you don't mind the lack of a bicep swivel, then hey, go for this guy. It really comes down to if you like the transformation. I don't personally, so I score him quite low. To me, he's a 4. I'm sure that there are people in the comment section that will say, hey, no, he's like the best Wheeljack going. And hey, if you feel that way, more power to you. If you enjoy him and you find the transformation easy, I think that that's fantastic for you. I'm really happy for you. It's just, I can't agree. I wish that I could, but I just can't agree. Anyway, folks, thanks for joining me. This was kind of painful, but a little less painful than I thought it was going to be. You know that I appreciate you giving me some of your valuable time. I always do. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together for another visit right here inside the video.